If you've watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know that the show ended on an incredible high note. Aang defeated Ozai, Zuko became Fire Lord, Aang and Katara ended up together, and the gang celebrated at Iroh's tea shop. But what happened next? Welcome to Movie Flame, I'm Morgan Ross, and today I'm going through every major character and breaking down what their life looked like after the war. And there is a lot to cover because the original creators of the show have spent the last 20 years writing comics that take the story farther than the show ever did. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking and sharing. It will greatly help to grow and sustain the channel. And if you like what you see, hit that subscribe button, and you can also follow me on all of my other social media pages, all of which are linked down below, and all of which house similar content that I make here on this channel. Now, let's get into it. Aang. After the 100-Year War, Aang threw himself into what became known as the Harmony Restoration Movement. This was a campaign to remove the Fire Nation's presence in the Earth Kingdom by transferring the Fire Nation colonials back to the Fire Nation. However, about a year later, Zuko unexpectedly pulled his support from this movement, and when war seemed inevitable, Aang had to make a tough choice. He concluded that the oldest colonies where Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom people had lived together for generations could no longer be forcibly separated. He stopped the battle and helped broker a peace deal that allowed the colonies to remain as self-governing communities separate from both the Fire Nation and the Earth Kingdom. After the colony crisis was resolved, Aang joined Zuko as he went on a mission to find his long-lost mother, Ursa. Aang played a key role in convincing the spirit the mother effaces to restore Ursa's memories, reuniting Zuko with his mother. Later, Aang began receiving visions of Avatar Yang Chen, the last air nomad avatar before him, which led him to revive an ancient festival in her honor. But he was horror-struck when the festival's sacred grounds had been built over by an industrial refinery. He butts heads with Toph and others who thought industrial progress was a good thing. And his time there got worse because he had to fight a spirit to protect his friends, which deeply hurt him to have to do. Aang had also severed his connection with Avatar Roku, but following his visions with Yang Chen, he mended their relationship. Back in the Fire Nation, Aang helped Zuko deal with a bunch of kidnappings, seemingly carried out by ancient dark spirits called the Kamurakage. After consulting one of the real spirits though, Aang deduced that the kidnappers were human imposters, and they eventually uncovered that it was Azula behind this whole scheme, and Aang helped resolve this. Around that same time, Aang headed to the South Pole to meet Sokka and Katara along with their father Hakoda. While there, he helped all of them fight off a group of rebels who didn't like what Hakoda was doing. Shortly afterward, Toph brought Aang to Cranefish Town on her father's orders. Toph Beifong asked Aang to help resolve tensions between benders and non-benders, which was getting very out of hand. They traced several attacks to a councilwoman named Liling, who was organizing a bender supremacist movement. Aang, with the help of Team Avatar, captured her, and Toph urged Aang to remove Liling's bending like he did to Ozai. When it came time to do so though, he ultimately decided against it. After Liling's final arrest, Aang and Katara felt a powerful connection to Cranefish Town, and they decided to stay, wanting to help it grow into something better. In his later years, Aang worked alongside Zuko to transform Cranefish Town into the United Republic of Nations, or Republic City. He married Katara and had 3 children, Bumi, Kaya, and Tenzin. He added his own island right off of the city where he and his family could live, which became known as Air Temple Island. Because Tenzin was the only airbender of his kids, and because Aang wanted to preserve the air nomad culture, he favored Tenzin at times, which created some distance with his older kids. Aang helped arrest a powerful bloodbender named Yakone, and he used the Avatar state to permanently remove Yakone's bending. This was the 3rd time that Aang had to make a choice like this, and this time around, he did it. Aang spent the rest of his life nurturing Republic City and air nomad culture, but the century he had spent frozen in the iceberg had drained his life force. This led to him dying at the relatively young biological age of 66, and he was reincarnated as Korra, the next Avatar. Katara. After the war, Katara was involved in the Harmony Restoration movement alongside Aang and the rest of Team Avatar. When the situation in Yu Dao became tense, it was Katara who helped calm Aang down when he entered the Avatar state during his confrontation with Zuko. She was also the one who framed the whole conflict in personal terms, looking at the mixed Fire Nation and Earth Kingdom families in Yu Dao, and this ultimately prevented a new war from starting. Katara was also present during Zuko's search for his mother, as she supported and helped him along the way. When she returned home in the Southern Water Tribe for the first time since the war, Katara found that her hometown had been transformed by the Southern Reconstruction Project, led by her father Hakoda, the new head chieftain. She was initially skeptical of the foreign involvement with this project, and even admitted to Sokka that she half understood the rebels' concerns. She was later shocked when she found out that her father was in a relationship with one of the leading builders, Melina. When the rebel leader Gillick attacked a festival and stabbed her father Hakoda, Katara fought back and later healed her father, ensuring he did not die. Katara eventually accepted her father's new girlfriend, and even helped save Melina from falling into the ravine during the climactic showdown at the Bridge of No Return. Katara was part of restoring peace in Cranefish Town, and when Aang entered the Avatar state to remove Liling's bending, it was Katara who convinced him to stop. Katara eventually married Aang, and as said, they had 3 children. Katara continued to develop her waterbending ability to extraordinary levels, eventually becoming regarded as the best healer in the world, and she passed these skills down to her daughter Kaya. After Aang's death, she became the waterbending teacher for his reincarnation, Avatar Korra, training the young Avatar from childhood in the Southern Water Tribe. She was also the one who convinced Korra's protective parents to let her keep her polar bear dog, Naga, recognizing that every Avatar needed an animal companion. Years later, after Korra had her bending taken away by the villain Amon, Katara tried to heal her. And when Korra eventually suffered severe mercury poisoning from the Red Lotus, Katara spent 2 years helping her recover. Even in her old age, Katara remained one of the most remembered presences in history. Sokka. Sokka stayed busy in the aftermath of the war. During the Harmony Restoration movement, he visited Toph's new metal bending academy in Yu Dao, and ended up helping her students find their courage. Sokka joined Aang and Katara as he too helped Zuko find his mother. Back in the South Pole, Sokka reunited with his father Hakoda, and like Katara, he also discovered that their home had been completely transformed because of the Southern Reconstruction Project, but he was more about this plan than she was. He helped fight off Gillick and his rebels several times, including in the final fight. He was the strategist behind the plan at the Bridge of No Return. Knowing that Gillick's forces could chi block benders, he had everyone wear metal under their winter clothing so they couldn't be chi blocked, helping them win the battle. After the battle, he and Katara visited their mother Kaya's grave together, paying their respects. In Cranefish Town, Sokka helped Team Avatar deal with a growing conflict between benders and non-benders. He reunited with Suki there, who he was still in a happy relationship with. When the bender supremacist Liling broke free and launched an uprising, Sokka was in the thick of the fight. He ultimately knocked out Liling's daughter Yeling with his trusty boomerang after she'd managed to stun Toph. He was also one of the voices arguing against removing Liling's bending, pointing out that she was a civilian and that conflict ran deeper than just one person. In his later years, Sokka rose to become the Southern Water Tribe representative on the United Republic Council, and eventually became its chairman. In that role, he too presided over the trial of the bloodbending crime boss Yakone, and he was actually bloodbent himself during the trial in the courtroom. Sokka later became the chieftain of the Southern Water Tribe, taking his father's place. Moving forward a bit, he joined Zuko, Tenzin, and Tonraq, defeating a group of dangerous criminals who called themselves the Red Lotus as they attempted to kidnap a young Avatar Korra. A statue of Sokka holding his boomerang was later built in front of the Southern Water Tribe Cultural Center to honor his legacy. Sokka ended up passing much earlier than others part of Team Avatar, though we don't actually know how or why he died. Toph Beifong. After the war, Toph wasted no time in moving on to the next step of her life. She founded a metal bending academy in Yu Dao and took on her first 3 students, Penga, the Dark One, and Ho Tun. The academy was threatened by a firebending dojo who occupied their building, but Toph's students, after having struggled for a while, finally metal bent for the first time, taking down the firebending dojo. After that, enrollment boomed, and her academy grew into a serious institution. Toph joined Team Avatar when they discovered an industrial refinery, which she was shocked to find out was co-owned by her estranged father, Lao Beifong. He refused to acknowledge her though, saying that she was not his daughter. Later, the iron mine beneath the refinery began to collapse, where she, Katara, her father, and several others were trapped. Toph held up the collapsing debris for an agonizing amount of time until her students and Aang arrived to help. When she finally emerged, she collapsed in her father's arms, and their relationship was mended. Lau was absolutely shocked at how powerful his daughter really was. She then joined her father at the refinery to help oversee the earth and fire industry's operations. She also continued to travel back to her metal bending academy, which had been run by her first 3 students while she was away. Toph got bored of the place though, and one night when she was out, she discovered an underground bending fight club in this abandoned warehouse. There, she discovered lava bending for the first time, which she loved. The lava bender's name was Sun, and he proceeded to burn the warehouse down by accident. Afterward, instead of getting Sun in trouble, Toph invited him to join her academy so she could teach him how to master his element, and this helped her find her passion for teaching again. Toph later traveled to the South Pole as a representative of Earth and Fire Industries to help with the Southern Reconstruction Project. While there, she helped in fighting off Gillick and his resistance. She then joined Team Avatar in Cranefish Town to deal with the growing crisis between the Benders and non-Benders. As said, she was the one who proposed that Aang take away Liling's bending like he did to Ozai. But again, Aang did not do this. After the crisis was resolved, Toph became the founding chief of police in Republic City, establishing the metal bending police force that would act as its law enforcement for generations. During this period, she had 2 daughters, Lin and Suyin. She raised both as a single parent, and deliberately gave them the freedom that she'd never had growing up. Later in life, Toph led the operation to arrest Yakone, and during his trial, she was blood-bent in the courtroom just like Sokka was, which was one of the few times that anyone had genuinely gotten the better of her. Toph retired from the police force the following year, and her daughter Lin took over for her. Decades later, she left civilization altogether and went to live in a swamp. It was there that she found a beaten and broken Avatar Korra, who was hiding from the world after her torment from the Red Lotus. Toph helped draw the last traces of mercury poison in her, and gave Korra a new perspective on the villain she had faced. Toph later traveled to the fallen city of Zaofu to rescue Suyin's family from Kuvira's Earth Empire, and during this, she finally talked to Lin about her father for the first time, and because of this, the two mended their relationship. Moving forward, Toph ran for office as a Democratic candidate, but she lost after discovering that the election had been manipulated. She then returned to the swamp, stating that the predators there were more honest than the politicians. Before she did though, she made one last trip to Republic City to spend time with her granddaughter Opal. There, she also met Katara, and they reminisced about the old days. Zuko. After his coronation, Zuko worked to make the Fire Nation government less like a dictatorship, reformed the education system, began prosecuting war criminals, and purged Ozai's loyalists from the government. This made him enemies though, leading to 6 assassination attempts on his life in the first year that he was Fire Lord. On top of that, Zuko also supported the Harmony Restoration movement, which as said was the effort to return Fire Nation colonists to their homeland. Despite all of this, Zuko worried that he might become a tyrant like his ancestors, and he made Aang promise to kill him if he ever ended up like his father. After finally getting back together with Mei at the end of the series, he and Mei broke up shortly after, following Zuko lying to her about visiting his father in prison. Zuko also reversed course with the Harmony Restoration movement after seeing the many families of mixed nations there. He ordered the Fire Army to defend the colony, and Zuko refused to back down. He had his army ready to fight the Earth King's army, leading to a massive battle. During the battle though, Zuko had a metamorphosis just as he did in Ba Sing Se during the series. And when he passed out, Aang took him to his uncle Iroh's tea shop, and there, as said, he and Aang agreed that the oldest colonies could be neither Fire Nation nor Earth Kingdom and had to become something entirely new. Zuko then turned to finding his mother Ursa. When Ozai refused to cooperate, Zuko released Azula from the mental health facility she'd been committed to, and he did this in exchange for information. Despite the skepticism of Team Avatar, the group, along with Azula, traveled to Ursa's hometown, and they went into a mysterious spiritual forest called Forgetful Valley. Through an ancient spirit called the Mother of Faces, Zuko learned that Ursa had been given an entirely new face and identity, and had been living as an ordinary woman with with no memory of her past. When her memories were restored, Ursa confirmed that a letter suggesting that Zuko was not Ozai's son, which Azula had been using as leverage, was a deliberate lie planted to fool Ozai. He had an emotional reunion with his mother, and later he took her, his stepfather, and his new little sister named Kiyi back to the Fire Nation palace. He grew to love Kiyi and had a good relationship with her. While back in the capital, Zuko was sad to learn that Mai had found a new boyfriend named Kilo. Then, a wave of child kidnappings began, including Mai's little brother. Zuko investigated this alongside Aang, Mai, and her new boyfriend Kilo. When his own sister Kiyi was kidnapped, Zuko locked down the city and ordered citizens' homes to be searched, and this triggered a riot. Eventually, they discovered that Azula had been behind the kidnappings all along, as she was manipulating events to push Zuko toward ruling with fear just like their father. He and Azula had a rematch of their fight at the end of the series, which ended in Azula once again disappearing. Though Azula escaped, the children were all rescued. Afterwards, Zuko apologized publicly to his people for his poor conduct and vowed to be a better Fire Lord. Zuko then traveled to the South Pole for an international conference about the Southern Reconstruction Project, where he quickly offered his support. When rebel forces kidnapped the Earth King, Zuko helped with the rescue at the Bridge of No Return, which helped improve relations with the Earth Kingdom after Zuko almost started a war with them not too long ago. Zuko also worked to implement his education reforms at the Royal Fire Academy for Girls, ensuring that the kids were taught the real history of the Fire Nation's villainy. He also successfully convinced Mai to become a teacher there to ensure these changes were held up. Later, when rogue Dai Li agents showed up to assassinate the headmistress, Zuko, Mai, and Ty Lee fought them off together. Alongside Aang, Zuko turned the old colonies into the United Republic of Nations, with Republic City as its capital. He and Aang remained lifelong friends, and some even called them best friends. In his 20s, Zuko found a juvenile dragon who he named Druk, and who became his lifelong companion. Later in life, Zuko married, had a daughter named Izumi, and became a grandfather. Zuko also joined Sokka, Tenzin, and Tonraq to stop the Red Lotus from kidnapping the young Avatar Korra, and after defeating them, he sent them to specially constructed prisons. He later gave the throne to his daughter Izumi, and moved to Ember Island, continuing on as an official ambassador for world peace. When the Red Lotus criminals once again escaped, Zuko flew north on Druk to sound the alarm, and he fought them off personally. Not long after that, he met an older Avatar Korra. He offered her guidance, the same way Iroh always offered him guidance. And speaking of Iroh, Zuko eventually reunited with his uncle Spirit in the spirit world, seeing him for the first time since his passing. Iroh. After the war, Iroh got exactly what he wanted. A quiet life running the Jasmine Dragon tea shop in Ba Sing Se, playing Pai Sho, and enjoying the company of friends. When Zuko eventually had his metamorphosis during the Yu Dao crisis, as said, Aang brought him to the Jasmine Dragon to recover, and Iroh nursed him back to health. When Zuko left to search for Ursa, Iroh stepped up as the interim Fire Lord, a role he enjoyed more than he expected, and his first official act was to declare a National Tea Appreciation Day, which is hilarious. He later played a crucial role in helping Zuko and his mother Ursa return safely to the capital, as he disguised himself as his nephew in a decoy caravan. When Ursa returned to the palace, Iroh helped his sister-in-law find her courage again, and also helped her get closure with his brother Ozai. Iroh's later years in Ba Sing Se weren't entirely peaceful. He faced public protests from people who resented his role as the commanding general during the original siege of Ba Sing Se. He was then kidnapped by the bounty hunter June, who had been hired by a former soldier who blamed Iroh for the deaths of his battalion during the siege. When the soldier demanded an apology and then suicide as reparation, Iroh took full responsibility for his past decisions, but refused to die for the sake of honor. June ultimately came back and freed him, having reconsidered her worldview after spending time with Iroh. Afterward, Iroh offered her a new job, which was hunting down rare tea ingredients. Iroh eventually chose to leave his mortal body behind and ascend to the spirit world, where he made new friends among spirits and built himself a new tea shop. While there, he encountered a young Avatar Korra lost in the spirit world, and he guided her through the darkness. He also guided Aang's children, Bumi, Kaya, and Tenzin when they became lost in the spirit world as well. And as said, Iroh eventually reunited with Zuko in the spirit world, which was an emotional moment for both of them. Azula. After her breakdown during the Agni Kai with Zuko, Azula was committed to a mental health facility rather than going to prison. Zuko eventually freed her in exchange for her help in finding their mother. Throughout the journey, she experienced hallucinations of Ursa and swung wildly between lucid moments and psychotic breaks. When the group discovered that Ursa had been given a new identity and she left her old life behind, Azula snapped, broke into her home, and threatened Ursa's life. She then fought Zuko before fleeing into the wilderness all alone. During her time in exile, Azula underwent a significant internal transformation. Her hallucinations stopped and she realized that her destiny was not to become Fire Lord herself, but to manipulate Zuko into becoming a ruler who governed through fear. She freed a group of women from another mental institution and molded them into a strike team called the Fire Warriors. Disguising her group as the mythical Kamurakage spirits, she orchestrated a wave of child kidnappings across the Fire Nation capital, including abducting her and Zuko's half-sister Kiyi. When Zuko finally cornered her, Azula told him plainly that she'd already won because she had revealed how ruthless Zuko could become, meaning her plan worked. She then disappeared, leaving him on that note. After some time, Azula's grip on the Fire Warriors was weakening. When one of her acolytes was captured and Azula refused to attempt a rescue, her followers openly challenged her. When she woke up the next morning, she found that they had all deserted her. Wandering alone in the forest, she stumbled upon what appeared to be a temple tended to by a monk. However, the monk turned out to be a shape-shifting spirit. The spirit gave her visions of her family and friends who showed her love and accepted her, including her mother. But then her visions were of Mai and Ty Lee mocking her, and of a monstrous Zuko telling her that she was all alone before she killed him, much to her mother's dismay. The spirit then transformed into a monstrous insectoid form and told her that it was now a mirror of her own inner self, shaped by her cruelty and desire for vengeance. The spirit said that she had been offered redemption and she refused it. After killing the spirit, Azula arrived back at the campsite, and there she found that her former followers had returned after rescuing the follower that Azula had abandoned. She witnessed them being happy and laughing together, and after seeing this, Azula decided that they were not worthy of her leadership, and she walked away, all alone and friendless. Suki. After the war, Suki took on the role of protecting Fire Lord Zuko at the royal palace. She secretly followed him one night on his late-night visits to Ozai's prison, and when she reported this to Mai out of concern for Zuko, she inadvertently contributed to their breakup. She apologized to Zuko for this, kneeling before him and telling him that she and the other warriors were worried about him. During the battle for Yu Dao, Suki helped coordinate the effort to disable the Fire Nation tanks, while Aang ended the fight diplomatically. When Zuko returned from his search for Ursa, Suki came up with the idea of using a decoy caravan with Iroh in it. Meanwhile, she would escort Zuko and his family. They were attacked though, and Suki helped fight off Ozai's loyalists who were after Zuko. Suki was also involved in the Kamurakage crisis. She and Ty Lee were on patrol the night Kiyi was kidnapped, and Suki tried to stop Azula, but Azula got the better of her and she escaped with Kiyi. Suki later made up for this though, as she helped in tracking down Azula and finding the kidnapped children. In Cranefish Town, Suki reunited with Sokka and immediately contributed to solving the Bender versus non-Bender crisis. When they went undercover at a Bender supremacist rally, Suki successfully chi-blocked the leader's powerful daughter Yeling, as well as the leader herself Liling. Suki then trained the refinery's non-Bender guards to chi-block. Under her instruction, an entire squad of factory workers became capable fighters, and they helped them win the fight in the end, taking back the city. Unfortunately, there's nothing past that for Suki's character, and honestly, I feel like she was kind of snubbed, never even getting a mention in The Legend of Korra. Kinda sad. Ozai. With the war over and his bending gone, Ozai was taken to the capital prison near the royal palace. Zuko visited him, telling his father that his banishment had ultimately set Zuko on the right path, and he urged Ozai to use his time in prison to reflect and find remorse. Ozai responded by taunting his son, saying that he'd fold under the pressure of leading, and told Zuko that he would come back to him eventually. He was right, because a year later, Zuko returned seeking advice, and Ozai enjoyed every second of it, telling Zuko a condescending story about his childhood, and he left him hanging so that Zuko would come back. When Zuko returned, Ozai told him that there was no right or wrong, only what the Fire Lord decided, which got in Zuko's head. He manipulated Zuko into almost going to war over the Earth Kingdom colonies, and told Zuko that he trusted Aang more than he trusted himself, making there be division between Zuko and Aang. Ozai then enjoyed when Zuko placed Azula in front of him, and when Azula caused chaos, grabbing Zuko's tea tray with her teeth and provoking a scene, Ozai just laughed silently. Ozai eventually told Azula the full story of Ursa and her letters, handing her exactly the kind of leverage she needed to try to destabilize Zuko's claim to the throne. After Ursa recovered her memories and returned to the Fire Nation capital, she walked into Ozai's prison and faced him. He warned her that returning was a mistake and vowed to hunt her and everyone she loved. But Ursa was no longer afraid of him. She looked at him and told him what she saw. A man who tried to make himself seem big while having a small heart. She said he had no room for love, including for himself. She then simply turned and walked away, leaving him to pathetically yell after her. Mai. After the war, Mai stayed close to Zuko and played an important role in keeping him safe, arranging for the Kyoshi warriors to serve as his bodyguards after repeated assassination attempts on Zuko. But as Zuko became increasingly secretive and closed off, and after Mai discovered he'd been secretly visiting Ozai in prison, she ended their relationship. When she discovered that her own father Yukano was leading the new Ozai Society, a rebel group trying to overthrow Zuko, she did not expose him publicly, but she did work to undermine the insurgents from the inside. Both she and her father used a boy named Kilo as a double agent, initially using a fake romantic relationship to ensure his cooperation. Over time though, Mai started to actually like Kilo and she started dating him. However, she still had feelings for Zuko. When the Kimura Kage kidnappings began and her brother Tom Tom was taken, Mai threw herself into the investigation alongside Aang, Zuko, and the Kyoshi warriors. When Zuko's sister Kiyi was taken as well, she comforted him and helped him get their siblings back from Azula. After the crisis ended, Kilo broke up with Mai, saying that he could tell her heart was somewhere else. And it got even worse for Mai, as she watched her father go to prison for his crimes. Sometime after, Zuko asked Mai to become a teacher at the Royal Fire Academy for Girls, knowing that the headmistress was blocking his education reforms. Mai was uncertain at first because that was where she went to school, and she had a lot of bad memories from her time there. However, Mai quickly found that the work gave her genuine purpose. She clashed repeatedly with the headmistress Shihan over the school's traditional values, and she eventually convinced Shihan to do it the right way. When the former headmistress realized the change in her school though, she sent Dai Li agents to assassinate Shihan at the school. With Zuko and Ty Lee's help though, Mai stopped the assassination attempt. After everything settled, Mai chose to keep teaching because it was something that made her genuinely happy and set her on the right path. Ty Lee. After the war, Ty Lee continued serving as a Kyoshi warrior and helped guard the Fire Nation Royal Palace alongside Suki. One day, Ty Lee had to chi block Azula when she attacked Zuko during a prison cell visit with Ozai. Afterwards, she admitted privately that she had never actually stopped fearing Azula. Ty Lee had a reunion with her 6 identical sisters, who she discovered had all joined the circus and formed an act called the Flying Tie Sisters. Ty Lee was furious because she'd spent her whole life trying to stand out from her sisters by finding her own thing, and acrobatics was what had been hers. When 2 men tried to set the circus on fire though, they all teamed up to take them down, which led to them reconnecting and Ty Lee hugging her sisters. Ty Lee went back to being palace security, and she and Mai worked together to expose the new Ozai Society's planned ambush, and Ty Lee helped in the battle. In the Kimura Kage crisis, she was the one who remembered Azula's use of the palace's secret passageways, which led them to Azula and the kidnapped kids. When Ty Lee tried to chi block Azula during this confrontation, Azula fended off this attack for the first time. Later on, Ty Lee took the lead in setting up a trap for Azula and her fire warriors, making the crates of grain they were after be empty, and coordinating an ambush. She fought Azula and successfully captured one of her fire warriors. Ty Lee later joined Mai and Zuko at the Royal Fire Academy for Girls, and as said, she helped fight off the Dai Li agents who were after the headmistress. After the fight, she expressed genuine happiness that Mai had found a calling that suited her, and she forced Mai into a hug. And that's what happened to every Avatar character after the series ended. Some characters found real peace, some found purpose, some found loneliness, and some found a truly amazing ending. Honestly, the comics do a remarkable job of honoring what the show built while taking every character somewhere new. If you enjoyed this video, I have lots of other Avatar videos on the channel, like this one where I rank all 61 episodes of the original show from worst to best, or this one where I rank all Avatar villains from least evil to most evil. That's all I have for you guys today though. Thank you so much for watching.